Education. What do you think of when you hear that word? You might think of your father telling you that you need to go get an education so that you can survive in this world. Now let's do a little thought experiment here. Imagine for a moment a little boy who is running down the sidewalk in front of his home. He has not had the benefits of a formal education at this point in his life, and he suddenly trips on a large crack in the cement. He goes crashing to the ground, soft hands reaching out in front of him to break his fall. He feels a sharp pain in his knees and a queer sting in his palms. When he stands up, he is horrified to find that he's bleeding. Crying, he runs to his mother. His mother calmly cleans his wounds and sticks a smiley face covered band-aid on the scrapes over his knees. Of course, the same thing will probably happen over and over and over again to this little boy before he realizes that running on broken cement is a bad idea. On the other hand, we have a high school student who has probably had a good 11 years of formal education. This boy, we see him coming out of a classroom. His arms are full of books, and he has books on human anatomy, physics, and several great works of literature. He's just come out of a lecture about how the human body will fall and with what force when part of it is suddenly stopped and the rest of it keeps moving. Through his reading and listening to his professor, he has learned that the body will try to correct itself, it'll try to correct its balance, and if that fails, it will try to protect especially the rib cage where the vital organs are protected. When the body hits the ground, the force might be enough to break the skin because the surface is abrasive. He also learns how the brain comes to realize that the body is injured because of the nerve endings sending signals to the brain. As soon as the skin breaks, blood will flow in an effort to stop infection from entering the now unprotected body. Soon after, the blood begins to clot, further protecting the body from loss of important nutrients while still keeping the infection out. Both of these scenes depict someone learning something, but in very different ways. The little boy learned about falling on cement, and he learned that falling on this broken cement is quite painful, and that to avoid pain he shouldn't run on broken cement. The other boy, much older than the first little boy, has just learned the very same thing, but in a very different way. Instead of running down a sidewalk and falling, he has simply been taught what will happen to his body if it is made to move in such a way. Both boys now know that broken skin is painful and harmful to the body. But how are their methods of learning different from one another? And which method is better? The first boy learned through experience. The world and its tricky physics taught him that falling on cement hurts. The second boy learned through a systematic approach called a formal education. Now, the truth is, neither method is the best. Formal education is much more complex than an education learned only through experience. It is a simple matter to understand things outside of your experience when you're reading a book. For example, I am not a canine and I have never been to the Klondike, but I can share these experiences with the character Buck in Call of the Wild. Another example, I have never seen a train wreck occur, but I can read descriptions of the occurrence and see pictures of the aftermath and get a sense of what it would be like to be in that situation. There are many drawbacks to learning through experience. As an example, if you learn solely through experience, you might learn what it feels like to throw yourself off a bridge. But you wouldn't be able to share that experience with anyone because 10 seconds later, you would be hitting water that was suddenly as hard as asphalt. But there's no way to have the one without the other. You can't teach a person what it's like to squish mud between their toes by handing them a geology book. But you would also have difficulty teaching calculus by taking a hike through the pine woods. Experience is just as necessary as education. Both methods are vital to our very existence. Studies have shown that a man with a high school diploma is much more likely to be able to survive in the wilderness alone than a man who dropped out of high school. It's true we don't have a lot of wilderness anymore, And you would expect a high school dropout to find work at a local grocery store or a gas station. Even a high school graduate, if he lives in the city anyway, isn't really going to be wandering in the woods very often. But these facts still show that even without a Christian worldview, education is very important. Secular scientists believe that we are only highly developed mammals and nothing more. Going with this point of view, as mammals, we must be constantly increasing our ability to survive and defend. And the scientists have said that an education makes our primal instinct for survival even sharper and more accurate. However, the other side of that same coin is experience. Again, the secular scientists study this issue with a cold, purely analytical mindset. And again, they find that experience is also necessary for survival. If we shut ourselves up in a corner with a book and learn everything there is to know about the world from that book, we would be hopelessly lost when it came to defense and survival in the real world. We would have lost the ability to discern a threatening situation even if we had read all about the warning signs. For example, reading about a hungry lion and then actually looking a hungry lion in the face are two very different things. Without experience, we are weak, and the weak will not survive. It has always been a kill or be killed, eat or be eaten world, and we must have the experience and the education to make our way in this world and survive. Without education, we would be living in caves and wearing rawhide. Without education, America would not be where it is right now, as one of the most advanced societies in the world. Without education, we would allow ourselves to be governed by tyrants and power-hungry fools. Without education, we would not have the technology to film this speech and put it into a worldwide database.